Hello everyone, this is going to be our first lesson for when I'm not here. Um, so I suppose just for the next 5 classes, I think, I'm going to be going through the slides here with you, kind of just go through all of the units and the modules that we have to do through the code.org lessons. So the last time that we met, you all did the Unit 1 exam. Um, we finished up with digital dilemmas and intellectual property, did the exam and everything. And um, like I was saying before, that units 1 and 2 are heavily represented on the multiple choice sections of the AP exam. So I think it is a good idea that we are doing these first, even though, obviously toward the end of the course and everything when we're preparing for the exam, these things are going to be far away from your memories, but I think that they serve as a very, very important foundation for building the apps and the create performance task. Like I said before, when we were working with compression, and even before then, I mean, the building of the pixelated art, both black and white images and in color, we were using that to sort of think about compression. And compression is not just minimizing the amount of data that is transmitted, but it's also a sort of it is a principle that we are going to be applying to our create performance tasks. We'll learn about functions and when we are going to be making or why we would make a function, how we call them. And, that's just kind of an example of how some of these ideas from earlier lessons are going to sort of reinforce different things that we're going to be doing later on in this semester. Same deal with Unit 2, Welcome to the Internet, is going to be foundational in sort of our understanding of what a network is. When I am building any sort of app or anything like that, the first thing that I consider is the user experience. And I like to think of things as sort of a 3D network. And so when we work with the internet, obviously that is just a very, very large network. The way that it works, we'll touch upon it throughout these lessons and everything. But I think, again, it's just another foundational topic that we need to discuss now so that we understand sort of the human element of app design. Like I said, we've learned to represent images, text and sound digitally. We have our black and white images, we have our color images with the compression. We know that the foundation of everything that a computer does is based in binary, just a bunch of switches of on and off, ones and zeros. We have our ASCII board here or our ASCII chart and the text representations. But we have not necessarily discussed how this information gets transmitted between people, essentially. So the big activity that we are going to be doing, and while you are following along with my videos, while you're doing these activities, definitely answer some of these questions in your journal. I do want all of the checks for understanding on code.org. I definitely want you to consider some of those questions, write those questions down, submit your answers there. Because not every single one of these lessons is going to have a widget or something that you can really work with. Like the next lesson is going to be known as an unplugged activity, where you are not going to be using your computer at all, and I'm going to be asking you to essentially interact with each other. And you can look ahead and see what that's going to entail, but you can also see on code.org there's only a check for understanding. There's not an actual widget for you to work with. Unlike today, where there is an internet simulator. So what is the internet? What questions do you have about networks? Put those in your journal and your checks for understanding. If we go to code.org, we can see in the pre-unit pulse, these are all checks for understanding, essentially just short answer questions before we get to the actual widget and then the wrap-up activity. But before we get into the activity, watch this video on what the internet actually is before we get into what the activity itself is. But once you have watched that video, navigate to level 4. What you are going to see is an internet simulator. So this should be set up. Perfectly fine for you. I hope that you don't run into any issues with this. From my side of things, I'll show you what it looks like. So what you're going to be doing here is you are going to be connecting to your classmates in basically a contained network, an intranet of sorts. So since I'm the only one that is in this lobby right now, obviously I cannot show you basically the chat room looks like. But go in there. So when you all log in to code.org and you have this URL right here. So basically all you're going to be doing is going to Unit 2, Lesson 1, the Internet, Level 4. Once you're all there, then you will be able to see all of the different lobbies in the chat rooms that you can join. And once you go in there, you will see that there are various ways that you can communicate with one another. So you can type messages using text, which will then be represented by decimal. And remember that these decimal numbers are representations of the numbers on the ASCII chart, but then also they get further translated into binary. You may also see a hexadecimal chart here as well, but if you do see that, that's perfectly fine. You can play around with those as well. Try to write different messages using different methods of typing, whether it is just the alphabet itself, typing with decimal. You can explore the ASCII board, and then you can also work with binary as well. And then you can send messages and see how the internet simulator works. See what you can do with it. So again, I cannot necessarily do a teacher demo here, but what you'll see when you go into this lobby here is that you will see your classmates, and you can see sort of chat rooms that you can join. If somebody requests to join your chat room, you'll get a message that you can accept them to go into your chat room, and then you can start messing around in there with that network and start sending messages to one another. All right. And then after you've finished messing around with the internet simulator, you'll basically be taken to the check for understanding, this level 5 right here, which is just asking how you feel that the internet simulator is different to the internet, how it's different, and then this is just the same video that was on before. Obviously, you have this note here. Earlier, it says to stop at 1:30. You have that right here. And then at the end, it is to start that video back up. But yeah, so your homework assignment, and these slides should be linked to on campus, the entire slideshow. So yep, anybody in Padua is a viewer. So yeah, so you all should be able to view these slides. I know typically I will make edits or include different slides, but at this point I'm going to be in Munich, and I am very unlikely to be looking at any of these slides. But who knows? I might add something. We'll see. It'll all be a surprise. But yeah, so that is your wrap up for this unit. So, um, in summary, go through these slides, make sure you're going through all the modules in class, work through the internet simulator, and yeah, that'll be it for this first lesson. Then I'll make another video for Unit 2, Lesson 2, Building a Network, which, like I said, is an unplugged activity, so you will not necessarily need to use your computers for this. And actually, I would recommend, I'll say it right now, Lesson 2, bring some strings to class. Miss Horton may have some strings in there, but if you happen to have strings or anything that could represent a string or a wire or a cable or anything like that, bring it to class because we will be using it to build a network amongst one another.